Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to coverage of my Round 5 game at the Western States Open played in Reno. Round 5 was played on Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. was when the round started. I had a decent night's sleep, so I was feeling pretty good. And I was in good shape from a tournament point of view, being just above even with 2.5 points out of 4 going into this round. And I had the white pieces. My opponent here was a youngster, the first non-adult player that I had to face in this tournament with a rating of 1905. So I kicked off with d4. He went knight f6. And he played a very traditional opening. We'll see. I go c4, he goes e6, and I go knight c3. He's wanting to play the Nimzo-Indian, it looks like, and I like to play against the Nimzo-Indian. I think it leads to interesting positions for both sides. So I allow the Nimzo-Indian with knight c3. He goes bishop b4, and I play e3, the Rubinstein variation, and that's the way that I play the Nimzo-Indian with the white pieces. He just castled here, which is the main move. I played bishop d3. All these are first choice in the opening book. He goes d5. In this position, actually, I like the move c5. That's how I play it myself. d5, though, is the traditional way of playing it, and still the most popular choice in the database. Let's see, I go knight f3, and then he goes c5. And this also is the top choice in the opening book. So, but it is a little bit old-fashioned. I think they used to play this more in the middle of the last century. Is the way this was commonly played. You don't see it so often today. I mean, there's all this tension in the center. It's somewhat complicated, and either side could end up with an isolated queen's pawn. And in fact, I go for a position where black has an IQP. But also black can go for a position where he tries to create an isolated queen's pawn on the white side. Let's see, it's my turn here. I just castle. So if he wants to, castling is the main move here. If he wants to, he can try and take. In fact, the top choice in the database is to take here. D takes c4 with the tempo on the bishop. But then not taking the d pawn. I guess in this position, it's not going to give me an IQP because I can always take back with the knight. He hasn't got enough pressure there. But knight bd7, an interesting move, is actually the top the top choice in the opening book. I guess one idea is you've got another defender for the c pawn. You've got another defender for the knight. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I would certainly be thinking about knight to c6 in this position and trying to put more pressure on the center. I think that makes a little more sense to me. But anyway, that's the opening book. My opponent played knight to c6 right away. I think that's it was like the second choice in the opening book and still a solid way to play. And now the main line for white here. I wanted to show this because I think I would probably play this way next time round if I get this position. I really have not seen this position so often, even though this is like the absolute most common line against the Rubinstein. I just don't see it very often in practice that people put all the pawns up like that. But the main line here is a3, kicking that bishop, and then black usually exchanges, and then takes on c4, this typical way of playing, and then gets the queen to c7. So starting to set up some threats on the king side, also maybe bringing a rook over to the d file to counteract the center. But it looks like this is a good position for white. I mean, I would be comfortable playing this. I've got the bishop pair, and I've got a solid center here. And so, I think that would be fine. But I saw an opportunity here to give black an isolated queen's pawn, and I thought that would be kind of an interesting way to play. And so I went for it, and I think this is the second or third choice in the database. It's still a mainline position, I would say. So I take on d5 here. He takes back with the pawn. If he took with the knight, I could keep taking. Yeah, if he really wanted to avoid the isolated queen's pawn, he could try taking with the knight. I guess I always have the option of kicking that knight with e4, so maybe it's not so great. But anyway, this is the way it was played. He took back, and then I take the c pawn. He took back, and we get this position. And right here, I play a move which is a little bit inaccurate. There's two moves that white has that are in the opening book, and both of them make some sense. The two moves that are possible here are h3, two moves that are in the opening book, which is to prevent the bishop from coming to g5, or possibly the knight, and we'll see the point of that in a move or two. Or the other move here is b3, preparing to put my bishop on b2. And in fact, I get these moves in. They're kind of part of the position here, and they're sort of logical moves. But in the wrong order. I played knight e2 first. And of course, what I'm thinking is that you want to, when you're playing against the isolated queen's pawn, your first order of business is to prevent that from coming forward. So you need to put a lot of force on that square to make it unattractive for your opponent to push his queen pawn forward and dissolve it. But the problem with this move is it allows the immediate bishop to g4. Now, fortunately for me, my opponent didn't play this, but I just wanted to point out why this was a mistake. I thought if he played bishop g4, I would go knight g3, and then with the idea of kicking his bishop with h3, and his bishop can't retreat here, or if it does retreat, I can trade it off. So I wasn't worried about this line. I thought this would be good for me. But what what black has here, now that my knight has left the e2 square, is he can push forward with d4, and I actually can't take I can't push h3 because he can take my knight, drag my queen away, and then capture a pawn. So h3 is just not good in this position, and yeah, the point of that, I guess, I don't know if I explained that well enough. If I play h3 here, and he takes the knight and drags my queen away, then he takes the pawn here with the attack on my undefended bishop. That's the point of dragging the queen away. And so I don't have time to take back. And in fact, I lose a pawn in that line. So so I couldn't play h3 here in response to a d4, and I have to just take it. And then black has successfully dissolved his isolated queen's pawn, and he's got pressure on my king side here with the pressure on the knight, the pinned knight. So that would be good for black. So knight e2, my move knight e2 is a mistake, and that's why you need to play in this position. You need to play h3 if you're going to play this way. It's to prepare knight e2. So I played knight e2, and fortunately for me, my opponent didn't take advantage of it, but just played bishop to e6. And so kind of let me off the hook here, and now I've got the kind of position I want. I played b3 now. He went queen to b6. I got my bishop to b2, so I've got three pieces firing away at that at the d4 square. Of course, he has his pieces lined up on d4 as well, and also taking a look perhaps at that's erases my arrows. He might also be thinking of sacrifices on e3 here. Sometimes there's tactics along those lines. So I move to immediately prevent that by playing. Oh no, it's black's move here. He went knight to e4. Yeah. So there's some ideas potentially of sacrifices on f2 or on e3. You have to be a little bit careful with all this force lined up here. So I went immediately with knight f to d4 and just blockaded the pawn here. Let's see, he exchanged once, and I decided to take back with the bishop. The chess engine actually prefers taking with the knight. This is probably good as well. Rook f to e8 and rook to c1 is the engine line from here. Just I guess let's see, black is not going to be tempted to trade this bishop for that knight. This is a good bishop, and at the same time, this knight is sitting on a good square where it can't be chased away from if it's not going to get traded off. So this looks like a good position for black. The way I played it, I was thinking that this forces a trade of his dark squared bishop, and it leaves him with a light squared bishop, which might be somewhat hindered by that pawn in the center. So I'm trying to get a situation here, and he can't avoid the trade really because his bishop is pinned against the queen. So it forces a trade of the dark squared bishop. So he takes, I take with the knight, and then he played rook f to d8, defending his d pawn. And that's another way. If my knight ever moves out of the way, then he has ideas of pushing the d-pawn forward. So I was very happy with this, and also looking at this position with the chess engine, it seems like white has a clear advantage here. I have the better bishop. He has a well-posted knight. You could argue that his knight is well-posted, but if I could trade actually my bishop for his knight without changing the pawn structure, there's a chance where I get this endgame position where I have this eternal knight on d4 against this, I would have a good knight against a bad bishop. That could be a pretty good endgame for me. So anyway, I continue just normal development, rook c1. He drops his knight back to f6. I'm not entirely sure why that was the case, but it does add an extra defender. I'm not sure what black's motive was for that, but it adds an extra defender to this pawn. And also the knight might come over here and harass my king side. So, it's a flexible position for the knight. Maybe he decided just wasn't doing enough there. There was also the idea I had of queen to c2 with his knight on e4, maybe trading it off and winning a pawn there, but that was not yet a threat, so he's kind of moving it off in advance. So I drop my bishop back to b1. I want to defend my pawns on the queen side, also open up some squares for my queen. I can set up a battery here and potentially open up lines of attack against the d-pawn. He played rook a to c8, so I think both sides have played very logically here. He's got his pieces well centralized. I went queen to d3, setting up this battery, which is not immediately threatening anything because his knight is defending the h7 square. But, it threatens to threaten something. Maybe I can get some moves in here to chase his knight away and then threaten that. So he immediately played g6. So that's the second time. That's kind of characteristic of my opponent's play and a little bit surprising in such a young player, that he's playing very cautiously and really not giving me any chances here, but even meeting my threats even before I make them. So at this point I play h3. I decide, it's a good time to stop him from getting active over here on the king side. And I was also thinking I might want to play rook to d1, and I didn't want the bishop coming here to prevent that. So that's what I was thinking with that h3 move. He went a6. Again, I'm not quite sure what that does, but it does keep my knight from hopping into the b5 square. So I went rook f to d1, having prepared that move. And my idea with this maneuver is I was thinking, after he played g6, he's kind of weakened his king side a little bit. He's created some dark squared weaknesses over here. So I was looking for some way to maneuver my queen around, and I didn't want to let go of this knight and have it be subject to a trade. So I wanted the rook here supporting the knight. I want the knight also to be able to be free to move away and have the rook operating against the d-pawn. So bringing the rook over here is preparation for moving my queen away and over to the king side. And he played the move queen d6, also kind of anticipating my plans in a way. That this takes a look at some of these dark squares over here on my king side, and it takes squares away from my queen, because I don't necessarily want to go to g6, for example, with my queen. I had an idea of maneuvering my queen. It's kind of a slow path, but to get over here to this square and to bring my knight over here to this square, and then, I'm piling up on the h7 pawn once again. So it's a slow path, but he's taking away my squares anyway. Let's see, I went queen e2. I still thought getting my queen over to the king side was the right idea. He dropped his queen back to e7, defending his knight. I was thinking of playing queen f3 with the tempo on his knight, so he's defended in advance once again. I play queen f3. He went bishop to d7. So this kind of reveals one of the points of his maneuvering, which is he brought his knight back here, and he put his rook here, so he's got this d-pawn well defended, and now he's going to try and turn his bishop, which was stuck behind these pawns. He's trying to turn this bishop into a good piece. It can come out to b5, for example, and have some scope along that diagonal. So I think my opponent, although he's playing unusually cautiously for a kid, he seems to be playing with real thought. He's thinking about his moves. Let's see. I went to f4 here since this diagonal is available to me, and now I can come over here to h4 potentially. And also I'm looking at the h6 square. So I played king g7. That keeps my queen out of h6 and defends his knight. And now I play a move that's a bit of a mistake. Is it a mistake? Well, actually, I had a better move here than what I played. So, so I've got a pretty good advantage at this point, and there's one move that keeps the strongest advantage for white. So if you want to pause the video here and think about it, what would you play as white in this position? Okay, I'm going to give the answer away. You know, it's not a tactic or anything. It's just a good solid move. Rook to c7. And I actually didn't really think about this move. I thought he could just trade it off, but if he trades immediately, then I get my queen to c7. So it's just a good, you know, sort of invasion type of move where you get your pieces into good spots inside your enemy camp. You know, I was a little too focused on the king side, I think, at this point in the game. I didn't really think about this move, but yeah, rook c7 is the best move here. The chess engine recommends knight h5 as a counter, kicking my queen, and of course my queen needs to stay in touch with the rook, so it forces the queen to an awkward square. And then let's see, well, black can activate his queen, but I can kick the knight back with g4, knight goes back, come out with queen to f4. His queen drops back to b6 now, hitting my rook. I can double rooks. There's this exchange. And looks like I get to keep my rook on c7. So it seems like this is a good position for white. The chess engine gives a +1 advantage to white in this position, which is a bigger than usual advantage. I really didn't spot that idea at all. So let's go back to the game. Like I said, I was still thinking about the king side in this position, and what I played, which is a move I'd been thinking about for a while, was brought the knight over here, knight to f3. So slight mistake, but still keeping pretty good advantage to white. He went h6, which keeps my knight out of g4, or g5 rather. And so I played knight to e5. And now knight to e5 is a second mistake. And this one is a real mistake. Not that it leads to disaster, but just because he has a very simple move here that kind of refutes it. So instead, the chess engine is recommending queen to d4 here. Kind of an interesting try. Just a little bit of maneuvering with the queen. Has his queen coming over here to a3, an idea I didn't really think about during the game, and then my queen dropping back to d2. So this setup actually happened in the game, but I lost a tempo with the way I played it. Let's see, I went knight e5. And also I wasn't really aware that he might have some threats, but queen to a3 here is threatening my my rook. So I have to be careful about that. You know, I can get out of trouble by exchanging, but there are some ideas for black there that I wasn't really aware of. So after knight e5, he just played the move rook to e8. And I didn't have any good follow-up. I don't have any good way to defend that knight. And I don't have any great squares for it to go to. I could take the bishop, but I was still thinking, and it's probably still true, I was still thinking this knight is a better piece than that bishop, so I don't really want to trade. So I just played my knight back to f3, and now he played queen a3. So we got that move in. He got a free tempo, basically, because this rook move to e8 didn't really cost him anything. It didn't help him that much, but I had to play two moves. I had to play my rook up and back. So it was sort of a waste of time. So I went with the exchange first. Rook takes because he's threatening my rook. Takes back. And then I went with queen to d4. So we're not getting into exactly the same position. We're getting into a similar position because he uses his queen to stake the rook. He places his rook all the way down here at c1. And he's kind of, I think black has equalized by this point. He's kind of got me a little bit knocked back. I think I had the initiative up to this point, and now he's got some ideas here and some active pieces. Even though he still has this potentially bad bishop, my pieces aren't that impressive looking at the moment either. In fact, this bishop is sort of tied down to the defense of the a-pawn, which is not the best thing for it. If I could still get some pressure along this diagonal, say with knight to h4, queen to d3, then there's still active plans for me. So anyway, I think it's about even here. I dropped my queen back to d2. I thought I needed to chase that rook away, and I went for the exchange. Rook takes, queen takes, and played the move queen to b2. And now here's a critical point in the game. My next move actually gives an advantage to black. So what I should play here, I need to figure out how to unravel. And the chess engine is suggesting a move like a4 to start pushing these pawns forward, also relieve this bishop and maybe get it off the back rank. I was looking at this position, and I thought that I was still thinking about this diagonal. I want to line up my pieces on this diagonal. I want to bring my knight over here and to gang up on the g6 square, and at the same time I wanted to chase the queen away. So I played queen to c2, and I thought after I looked at this that the queen had no square to go to, and this would basically force an exchange, and that I would have the slightly better endgame. Not that I would be winning, but I'd still have chances in the endgame for a win, and if all I could get out of it was a draw, I guess I was willing to settle for that, but still, going into the endgame with the idea of pressing. I should point out, by the way, that when you're fighting against the isolated queen's pawn, you really want to trade off the minor pieces and keep the rooks. They're better at lining up against that isolated pawn and exploiting it. So I didn't really want to trade rooks, but it was sort of forced on me. I think that was one of the ways that black basically equalized here. And anyway, so this queen c2 move, however, was a mistake because black has another move here. So other than just trading. So if you want to see if you can figure out what black played here, and also see if you can figure out why it's a good move. Okay, I'm going to give the answer away now. Black played the move queen a1, and that was totally a move I didn't even think about. But it is a good move. The queen is sitting on my back rank. It's pinning my bishop. My bishop is pinned. It's attacking this pawn, so my bishop is also tied down to defense that pawn. My queen's defending that pawn. But my bishop and queen here are lined up in a bit of a target, right? He's immediately threatening to play bishop to f5, skewering my queen and winning my pinned bishop. So, but on the other hand, his queen is also very nearly trapped. In fact, if we back up here, the reason why I thought he was going to trade is because the queen has no squares to, well, it could retreat, but it has no squares along this diagonal. It has very few squares to go to. And after the queen goes to a1, it has no squares to go to. All these squares are covered. Those are covered by my knight and my queen. On the other hand, I can't chase this queen out of that. I can't put my queen anywhere on these dark squares because he can just take it, and also it leaves my bishop hanging if I go to c3, for example. So I don't have a good way of getting his queen out of there. But I thought about something. If this pawn weren't here, and this knight were to come over here, that's only 3 moves. That queen is totally trapped. That queen has nowhere to go, because the bishop and the pawn here are guarding those 2 directions it might move. The only direction it can leave in is along this direction, and it's not entirely trapped. I guess it would be trapped. He could actually, when I bring my knight over here, it would run out. The queen could run out to. The queen would run out to e5 there. That's right. So it's not a complete queen trap. Anyway, but that's what I was thinking. And also knight to d4 here, in addition to chasing the queen away, is also covering the f5 square, so he can't play this bishop f5 skewer and win my queen. But it's not the best move here. So if you want to pause the video for a second here, see if you can find the best defense for white in this position. Okay, the recommended move from the chess engine in this position is queen to d1. So this is basically it's helping to unpin things. I'm just trying to untangle here. So now I could maybe move the a-pawn forward, move the bishop here, and then provoke a trade, or his queen would leave, and I could sort of slowly unwind, and that would be the way to save it. And if he goes bishop f5 trying to exploit the pin, I can still play bishop c2. This momentarily gives up a pawn, but the queen trade, of course, is still good for me. So you might try to win a pawn, but then I can damage the pawns over here and then play knight to d4. You know, adding an extra defender to this pawn and piling up on this pawn. I can bring the queen out and round up that pawn. So it looks like he can't hold on to his extra pawn. So queen to d1 right here would be okay for white. I think it leads to about an even game. Let's see. Another option after queen d1 might be to play b5. But then after that, the queen can go to... That kind of slows down this a4 idea. But, well, the follow-up is queen to f1. And now the queen is safe, so there's no pin on the bishop anymore, and so I can meet bishop to f5 by exchanging, and it appears that I can slowly unwind from this position as well. So queen d1, it seems like in all lines I'll come out with an okay position. With knight to d4, I'm actually a little bit worse, because he has another threat here that I wasn't taking into account. I was focused on this bishop to f5 threat. But knight to e4 is a threat as well. And the idea is simply to play knight to c3. And once again, this bishop is pinned and can't move. And it's not so easy to find a way out of this. I find the only move here, in fact, the best move according to the chess engine to try and defend against this is knight to e2, and I play that. You know, I was still thinking about this b4 idea to chase his queen away, but unfortunately, and I noticed this before I played it, he has to move bishop to a4 here, hitting my queen. So this no longer works. I don't have time to save the material here. If I take his bishop, he'll take my bishop with check, and then he'll gather up some pawns. And if I try knight to b3 here, just to block that attack on the queen, he can just take it. And after I take back, he still has knight to c3 attacking my my pinned bishop, and he ends a piece up. So so that just doesn't work here. So the only move to play, and I found this move, is knight to e2. Just stops his knight from coming into c3. But now he just plays bishop to b5. So he's successfully activated his bad bishop. And once again, I'm in a bit of trouble. He's threatening to trade here and win the bishop. So I find the only move that kind of keeps me in the game here. I play f3 here, top engine choice as well. I kick his knight. He takes, and I can't take the bishop because he'll take my bishop with check. So I have to take the knight, and then he plays d4. This is a top engine choice as well, and a very good move. He's not just grabbing a pawn here, and that would leave us at more or less even position, but if he, for example, if he takes here and I take, seems like that is okay for me. But he pushes on with d4. I mean, maybe black is still a little better in that position. Pushes on with d4, and you know, he's going to just march that pawn through if I'm not careful. It's threatening to come one more step forward, and I still haven't unraveled here, so I need to take. And he gets to take with check. I move my king to h2. King to h1 is possible there, but it actually turns out to be about the same. And you know, for a second, it seems like it's going to hold together because the material is even, and maybe I'll have time to unwind my pieces here and get them active. This bishop, you know, in spite of the fact that it's in a battery with my queen, there's no longer any prospects along this diagonal. So it's going to take me some moves to unwind here. But, well, he has to save his bishop too. So, like I say, for about a move here, it seems like it's going to be okay. But it turns out, and looking at this with a chess engine, it seems like there's just no way to save my d-pawn. So the tables, or e-pawn in this case, the tables have been turned here. And instead of my opponent having the isolated pawn, I've got the isolated pawn, and he has the play against it. And it looks like that's sufficient to give him an advantage here. Let's see, I played queen to c1. I'm trying to get my queen out of the way of the bishop, so the bishop defends the pawn directly and also has a little bit of scope. Plays bishop to c6, just ganging up on it. I bring my queen over to e1. And he plays queen to e5 check, driving my king to the back rank. That's why I thought king h1 might have been better, but there were other tricks that black had in the king h1 line. So king h2 and king h1 turned out to be about the same. But after king goes to g1, he has f5. And he's just winning this central pawn here. And there's no defense. So I played queen d1. He takes the pawn. And there's enough force that he can push this pawn through. I don't quite get organized in time to stop it. Let's see, I played bishop c2. He just pushes on with e3. Went queen to d3, threatening here. And he responded by playing queen to g3. He was playing this very conservatively. The chess engine says actually it's winning just to push with e2 because the checks don't lead anywhere. He can walk away from the checks, and then this pawn is going to queen. So, but like I said, he was playing cautiously. He went queen to g3, defends the. Let's back up one more move. Queen to g3 defends the g6 pawn, and also defends the e pawn and prepares for it to push all the way to e1. Let's see, I tried queen e2 here, blockading the pawn. He went bishop b5, chasing my queen off that good square. I went queen to f3, and he just traded. I think he can calculate out to the end of the game by now. So just trade here, and then bishop to d7. He's just going to bring this bishop around. Let's see, he's attacking this pawn. If I defend with the king, yeah, there might have been better defenses here, but I think black wins in all lines. In any case, I just pushed the h-pawn forward, and he brought his bishop into f5, challenging my bishop. And if I drop back here, I didn't play this, but if I drop back here, he can bring his bishop into d3 and force this pawn through. I can't get my king to this square or to this square to stop that pawn from coming forward. So he has a win in that line. So I traded, and for a second I was thinking maybe I could keep his king out and round up this isolated pawn with my king. So I played f4, but I needed one more move. He played king g6 immediately. What if I had had that move h5 in? If I'd gotten that pawn all the way to h5, it might have made his journey of his king too long, and I might have been able to get over here and win this pawn and get a draw. But after king g6, there's just no hope. He's going to win one of these pawns if I take this pawn, probably both of them. And in any case, he's got a winning endgame, so I resigned at this point. So pretty good game, and really solid play by my opponent. It was interesting. There was no real tactical fireworks, but he played extremely solidly. He defended against all of my threats. And when I overlooked one idea that he had, then he took advantage of it and used that. Converted it to a win at that point. So good game, and stay tuned. I'll be finishing this up with my coverage of round 6. See you then.